A social media influencer went on vacation with her friends, but 24 hours later into her trip, she died under mysterious circumstances. Conflicting stories, disturbing cell phone footage, friendships gone wrong. What happened to Shanquella Robinson? Shanquella Robinson. In October 2022, 25-year-old Shanquella Robinson arrived in the town of San Jose del Cabo in Mexico with 6 of her friends. The next day, paramedics discovered an unresponsive and delirious Robinson on the floor of her rented villa. Exactly how Shanquella ended up in this state was a mystery, and despite the paramedics' intervention, Shanquella suffered a seizure and passed away. Shanquella's friends told doctors that she drank a lot of alcohol, but the young woman's autopsy report told a much different story. Investigation into Shanquella's death discovered that her 6 friends hadn't revealed the whole truth about what happened in the villa that afternoon, prompting the belief that her death may have been orchestrated at the hands of those she trusted. Who was Shanquella Robinson? Shanquella Robinson was a young African-American woman from Charlotte, North Carolina, who had the whole world ahead of her. Not only was the ambitious young woman a social media personality, but she was a hairstylist and businesswoman who ran a number of clothing lines under her Exquisite brand. She was also an aspiring model, posting her professional shots on her social media to her thousands of followers. Shanquella was young, successful, and a beloved sister and daughter. Like any prosperous youngster, Shanquella had a thriving social life. And in October 2022, she accompanied 6 of her pals to Mexico to celebrate one of their birthdays. Shanquella and her 6 friends arrived in Cabo on the morning of October 28, 2022. Once Shanquella had settled in, she called her mother in high spirits to tell her that she had arrived safely. With no cause for concern, her mother told Shanquella she loved her and hung up. Unbeknownst to either of them, it would be the last time they ever spoke. The crime. The following day at around 2 p.m., one of Shanquella's friends called for medical help at their rented villa. The friend told the operator that their friend had drunk too much alcohol and needed immediate assistance. Although the friend seemed frantic and desperate, it took an hour for help to arrive. A doctor from a nearby hospital rushed in at 3:13 p.m. and found Shanquella dehydrated and struggling to communicate. However, according to the doctor, Shanquella's vital signs were all in order. But after an hour of emergency treatment, Shanquella suffered a seizure and began violently convulsing on the bedroom floor. The doctor informed the 6 friends that Shanquella needed to be transferred to a hospital immediately, but bizarrely, the friends insisted that Shanquella be treated at the villa. For some reason, the rest of her party didn't want the young girl to receive the medical care she desperately needed. Just before 5 p.m., Shanquella's condition seemed to worsen still. And so the same friend that alerted the hotel staff to Shanquella's needs then called 911 for an ambulance. Police and paramedics arrived around 30 minutes later, and by now Shanquella was in a critical state. Medics delivered doses of adrenaline and AED shocks to keep Shanquella conscious, but without success. Shanquella was declared dead just before 6 p.m., around 4 hours after her condition was first reported. Initially, her death was considered to be a simple case of alcohol poisoning based on what friends had told the medics. Just one of the many cases of people consuming too much on vacation and paying a fatal price. However, in the aftermath of Shanquella's death, certain facts came to light that painted Shanquella's final moments in a very different light. Suspicions. The initial police report filed for Shanquella's death stated that there was no observation of internal or external injuries. Her death was cited as purely alcohol-related, with the U.S. State Department declaring that Mexican authorities believe there is no clear evidence Shanquella was murdered. But Shanquella's mother, Salamondra Robinson, tracked down the coroner's report and noticed a massive contradiction to the official police report. According to Shanquella's autopsy, she had passed away 15 minutes after suffering a severe spinal cord injury, an atlas luxation. The base of Shanquella's skull had been separated from her neck bone, otherwise known as internal decapitation. The police report made no mention of any injuries, despite numerous medical officials being present at her death site. Furthermore, such an extreme injury would not come as a result of alcohol poisoning, and even more bizarrely, Shanquella's friends seem to have conflicting stories about the whole thing played out. One of them even informed Salamondra that her daughter had drunk too much and been found by the maid, despite all 6 of her travel companions being present throughout. It was enough to raise suspicions about what truly happened. And then, a damning piece of evidence appeared that turned the entire case upside down. Disturbing footage. On November 16, 2022, a disturbing piece of video footage swept through social media. Leaked from an unknown source, the grainy video showed a naked and helpless woman being savagely attacked in a holiday villa. The victim looked to be in a delirious state and refused to fight back. Meanwhile, her attacker, another woman, administered a brutal beating while a group of others looked on without concern. The victim in the video was Shanquella Robinson. When authorities looked into the unsettling footage, they found it had been taken on the same afternoon Shanquella died, likely only moments before medics had first been alerted. The video raised more questions than answers. Why were Shanquella and one of her friends engaged in such a violent turmoil? Why was someone recording it? Why didn't her so-called friends intervene? At one point, a male out of shot can be heard saying, "Quella, can you at least fight back?" As though the fight was nothing more than light entertainment. The shocking video quickly gained traction online and awarded the case worldwide publicity. By this point, the 6 friends had since returned to the United States and had not been arrested or interrogated by Mexican authorities. A high-profile case. In the wake of the strange circumstances around Shanquella's death, the case began to attract worldwide attention. Thousands of people, including Shanquella's distraught family, called for further investigation. The hashtag #JusticeForQuella soon began trending on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Their pleas were heard, and in November 2022, the State Attorney General Office of Baja California Sur reopened their investigation under suspicions of suspected homicide. Likewise, the FBI opened a separate investigation into the Shanquella Robinson case. As well as looking into the mysterious factors at play, the FBI also scrutinized the actions of the doctors and police officers that first responded to the scene out of accusations of misconduct and negligence. More footage surfaces. In November 2022, an anonymous source leaked a second video, again showing the inside of Shanquella's villa on the day she died. The video was filmed by Shanquella herself as she strode through the house in high spirits, this time calling out for her friends. The villa seemed quiet and deserted until Shanquella found her friends congregating in one of the bedrooms without her. The moment Shanquella entered the room, the atmosphere seemed to turn sour, as though Shanquella was unwelcomed around her housemates. Combined with all of the other strange factors, it raised questions about Shanquella's relationship with her so-called friends. Missing money. Another puzzling aspect of the case concerns that of Shanquella's personal funds. According to her mother, Shanquella had taken $17,000 in cash with her to the luxury resort, $7,000 of which was the rental fee for the villa that the 7 friends were staying in. The villa reportedly cost $2,500 per night, which Shanquella covered herself in full. Upon learning of her death, Shanquella's parents expected the remaining money to be returned to them. However, the remaining $10,000 was nowhere to be seen. All of Shanquella's belongings and suitcases were accounted for, but there was no cash in sight. Had Shanquella's friends not only murdered her, but stolen her money too? Number 1 suspect. On November 23, 2022, the Attorney General of Baja California General Prosecutor's Office announced that an arrest had been made, and this suspect had been a direct aggressor in the death of Shanquella Robinson. In March 2023, this aggressor was named as Dejani Jackson, the same woman that was seen beating Shanquella in the viral video. Law enforcement agencies are currently working to extradite Dejani Jackson back to Mexico for further investigation, as the case falls under the jurisdiction of Mexico. However, Shanquella's family are fighting to move the jurisdiction to the United States for what they believe would be a more thorough investigation and sentencing. The family have since turned to current President Joe Biden for swift diplomatic intervention by the White House and U.S. Department of State. But although the arrest of Dejani Jackson may help uncover the real reason for Shanquella's death, there are still many unanswered questions, including some very dark and ominous theories. Was this a planned attack? Shanquella Robinson's death has since gripped social media, and it's been the online sleuthing efforts of amateur researchers that first leaked the names of Shanquella's friends to the public. One prevailing theory amongst researchers, and one believed by her own parents, is that the whole murder was set up ahead of time. It wasn't a fight, her mother said. It was an attack. Did Shanquella's friends purposely lure her to Mexico to kill her? Perhaps believing that Mexico's lax regulations would help them evade justice. It may explain the vicious beating, the fact that no one helped Shanquella out, and the friends' insistence that Shanquella not be taken to the hospital. It could explain why they went with the alcohol poisoning excuse, when at least 2 of her friends witnessed her being assaulted. It could explain their robbery. And lastly, the "can you at least fight back" line from one of her friends could indicate that they wanted the altercation to seem like a fair fight, rather than a planned murder. Bernard, Shanquella's father, went on to say, for them to be in that room, no one spoke up or whatever when it seemed like they had attacked her. Man, she was naked. They just robbed me. They just put a hole in my heart. That was my only child. I'm just heartbroken. I can't even be a granddad. Can't walk her down the aisle. Can't even hear her voice. I just want justice. I'm just angry. Donations. To assist with their fight for justice, Shanquella Robinson's family have organized a GoFundMe page for those who want to assist with their mounting legal fees. While the page has since reached its goal of $400,000, this case is about more than just one senseless death. It's a symbol against misconduct, negligence, and incompetence. If not for the hard work of Shanquella's family, amateur researchers, and some miraculously leaked videos, the case would be long closed.